what kind of a world do we want to live in? This podcast opens the difficult and uncomfortable conversations about crime, addiction, poverty, and more. If we want a healthier community, these messy conversations need to happen. This is Dangerous Ideas for Social Change. All right, welcome to Dangerous Ideas for Social Change. I'm so excited to have a conversation we're going to have today. And as you know, Dangerous Ideas for Social Change is we are trying to generate some friction. We're trying to generate some questions that or maybe some ideas that push on the narrative in the world today. And if it's generating energy you may be interested in, then today's going to be your interview. We're here with Orlando Bowen. He's the executive director of One Voice, One Team. Orlando's a motivational speaker, and he's also offers some services around athletic training programs. And basically, I understand your mission is to motivate youth, to help youth see beyond their present circumstances. And there's sort of like another big piece of you that you were in the Canadian Football League as a linebacker, defensive back for the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Linebacker, greatest position on the field. If you're
Really?
listening, yes, absolutely. So,
Okay.
sorry to interrupt.
Yes, excited about that.
You spoke the word. You spoke the word.
Said the thing. I said the thing. So I'm going to start by asking you. There's a certain kind of person that kind of gets to that place of being able to play in the CFL. Yeah. And that's a certain kind of person. So what kind of person are you? What are you about, Orlando?
Yeah. So I'm about living life with passion, and really using whatever gifts, talents, even the challenges and the perspectives that are gained through the challenges to contribute, to bless others, to uplift, to challenge, to inspire, to shift how people see themselves and their possibilities. I'm that type of person.
So you like to push yourself, and you like to set goals, and you like to kind of climb higher, go deeper, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Okay, tell me a little bit about, so we're going to get to the story of One Voice, One Team, but I'm always interested in the individual I'm talking with, and kind of, so you're the executive director of the place, but I want to kind of know a little bit about your story, like how you got to be in the place you are today.
Yeah,
tell us about that.
Love it. And first of all, Kent, like I loved even the title of the show, the spirit of the show in terms of dangerous ideas for social change. I've got one for you right off the top.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Right off the top.
This is going to be good.
Forgiveness is a high performance tool.
Come on.
Forgiveness is a high performance tool. So I'm open with that, and we'll get to it in different ways. But when you're talking about dangerous ideas, people are kind of like, well, wait a minute, stop the bus, time out.
That's
right.
That is maybe the most dangerous idea we've heard so far. We did have one person who wanted to start a revolution who was on our program, but forgiveness it's its own kind of revolution. Yeah. So. Did you come to that theory from kind of like an armchair somewhere in the comfort of maybe sitting on a beach having a drink?
Not at all.
No, you
not
didn't.
at all. That would be great if it came like that. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But the reality is, what we've had to journey through, or what we've gotten to journey through, because I think it's a gift in and of itself, has forged that perspective as not just something that we understand, but also a way that we live. It's a way that we show up in community. It's the way that we show up in service. We're not judging folks for where they're at, where they're from, even the actions towards us, right? Because we don't know what their journey has been. But really thinking through how to really let go and let God, you know what I'm saying? Like to not be, we're in this world, in the society, you think of movies and movie arcs, like the hero's journey, for example.
Yeah.
Right? There's a hero, they have a challenge, they have trouble navigating it, they find a mentor, the mentor helps them, and they conquer, and oftentimes it's like, sometimes the hero's mentor dies in the process, and they are avenging the death of the right. So it's a lot of the time it's an eye for an eye. You did this to me, so I'm going to train and become better, and then I'm coming after you, right? So imagine a shift in that narrative where you did something to me, and my purpose is to understand the roots of why you did what you did, and then to address things from the root so that you could come to an understanding yourself without it being imposed on you in terms of what's possible in light of what you've had to journey through.
Yeah, I've heard this line that the best story is a story with characters who overcome a conflict, or who face a conflict, overcome the conflict, and in the process, they themselves are transformed. If you don't have those components in a story, it's not a good story. So tell us about your story and how you came to understand these truths.
Yeah, so I came to Canada as an immigrant from the Caribbean. I was born in Jamaica. Shout out to the island and Rick's Cafe and all of them places. I came to Canada and my parents struggled. When I was growing up, my dad had 3 jobs. My mom was studying nursing full time while working full time. So I didn't see my parents much. Like growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. There's a huge blessing in that because I got some old school values. I got some, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of love, a lot of sacrifice, perspective. As I journeyed, I saw some of the sacrifices that folks are making, and I thought to myself, man, I want to be able to do that for my family. And also, my dad, in addition to his 3 jobs, also suffered from an addiction. So I saw that struggle, and my hope and prayer was that I wouldn't do that. Like I wouldn't have that type of impact on my family if I were ever blessed to have a family, be a father. So we were living in inner city Toronto for my formative years, moved to the suburbs for high school, started playing organized sport, which is where I was introduced to football in a city called Brampton. Ended up earning a football scholarship to Northern Illinois University, home of the Huskies. Shout out the Huskies. I graduated a couple of times, bachelor's and then a master's, and then started working in tech, in IT. But I felt like it was interesting. Growing up, I felt like the end goal was to get the job, like get the bag, as the kids would say nowadays, right? Like get the job that pays really good money so that you could live where you want to live. And I got the job, and I felt like something was missing. And what was missing for me was the service piece that I grew up around my parents, grandparents. Even though we didn't have what we had, the community had, right? So my grandparents would make sure that our friends had food, even at times where they weren't eating, right? The adults weren't, but they would make sure that the kids ate. So I saw a number of things in terms of sacrifice that I wanted to be that and do that. And then I started, I was playing sport, football scholarship. I got a call from the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League. They said, hey, are you still interested in playing football? And I was pretty set on my corporate path, but I thought, well, here's the thing that could fill the gap that I felt in terms of service, perhaps. So I asked them, if I make the team, could I serve in community? And they said, yeah, we have this guy over here. His name's Pinball. He loves to serve in community. I'm sure he'd take you and y'all could do things. So I took a leave of absence after speaking with him, and made a team and got involved in service and training police and racial sensitivity, working with sick kids and homeless youth, refugee families, building houses through Habitat for Humanity. I know you. You're good with your hands, and you know what I'm saying, like
we
in
build
terms
stuff
of
around
you
here.
build stuff,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You build stuff. So that it was an introduction. I was just like, okay, God, like, how can I serve? How can I be of service? Like, so I tried a lot of different things to see what spoke to my heart, and so I was doing a number of those things and signed a contract extension going into my 5th year of professional football, and while waiting for my teammates, I was accosted or approached by 2 guys that were armed with guns, and one of them threatened to shoot me in the head. They grabbed me, started to wrestle me down to the ground, and I was thinking, well, like, what is happening? This is crazy. And it started off, let me back up. They came up, they were walking towards me, and one guy says, hey man, you got any drugs on you? Yeah. And I'm like, you're asking in my mind, I'm like, bro, you're asking the wrong dude, right? So I said no. Went back to my phone call. But then one of the guys was kind of lingering at the rear of my vehicle, and he asked me if I was sure. And then I looked at him, and I remember that I saw 2 when I first saw him. So I look, and the other guy was in my blind spot. So I felt like something was off. So I put my phone on speaker, I put it on top of the car, I stepped back so I could see them both. I said, "What's up? What's going on?" And that's when they accosted me, if you will, and started to beat me until the skin on my head split. And I remember being face down on the pavement. My wife and I had an 18-month-old son. She was, at the time, she was pregnant at the time. And I remember being beaten to where I was like, man, I can't believe this is how I'm gonna die. And I remember saying, God, like, don't let me die like this. And my life was spared. I remember a moment distinctly where, and just for information purposes, it turned out that the two guys were two corrupt undercover police officers who worked for the police service that I trained. I was their spokesperson. I was their face in the community. And I remember at one point of the assault, one of the guys, he was trying to put my arm behind my back. And I was, pretty athletic at the time. I was, bench pressing over 400 pounds, squatting a lot. And I kept saying, "Oh my God, I didn't do anything. Why are you, like, what's happening? Talk to me, what's going on?" And they were just fists flying. Knees, elbows. And I'm just like, I didn't do anything. So they're trying to put my hand behind my back, and I pulled my arm as one of them were holding on to it, and he stumbled. And when he gathered himself, he turned to his partner, and he looked at me, looked back at his partner, and he said, "I'm going to shoot him in the head, I swear to God." And when he said that, there was a lot of thought. Like, the things that came to my mind was, I need to get home to my bride. I need to see our son. I need to be the dad that promised that I would be present, promised to take care of my family. I have to get back home. And in that moment, I realized that if I established the upper hand, I was going to die that night. So I had to allow them to take me down without dying in the process, which meant, like, in football, we talk about, like, you minimize surface area when you're about to engage with someone that's trying to block you, right? So you take away you turn your shoulders, things we'd say get skinny in football. And so when I felt the blows about to happen, that's what I would do. I'd turn my shoulder, I would minimize the surface area, I'd duck my head. So they, just trying to protect my skull and internal organs. Long story short, I was taken in, and when they realized that I was their face and their spokesperson, a huge cover-up began. They took me to jail. They went back to the scene, planted drugs by my car, charged me with assault and possession of a controlled substance. And then we spent, like, the next year and a bit, just in the courts battling these charges and really praying. Like, I remember being in the courtroom and the officer saying to the judge, after taking the oath on the Bible, he put his hand on the Bible and took an oath to tell the truth. So I was like, okay, so he's gonna tell the truth, right? Mm-hmm. And then he's like, "Your Honor, this guy," pointing at me, he's 6'2", 235 pounds. He's trained to hurt people. In my 17 years on this force, I've never been in such fear for my life. And I was like, oh my God, how could you say that?
Yeah.
You, like, how? Like, so I couldn't, so the words of my grandmother came back to me when she used to always say, hurt people when they don't know what to do with their pain, they hurt other people. And in that moment I thought, what kind of pain? Like, I just felt really, like, my heart just broke for him in that moment, thinking it must be a depth of pain, the depth of pain that could bring you to show up in this moment like this is something I got to pray for you about, so you could heal from that. And so I prayed for healing for him and for the truth to come out, right? And we got 6 weeks before we were supposed to get the verdict, and the arresting officer himself was arrested for trafficking cocaine. He was arrested, charged, convicted, sentenced to go to prison. I was acquitted. But it was a journey. And during that process, like when we were sitting in court and the fact that I couldn't say anything out loud, I was like, what if I could say something? If I could say something, what would I say? And I went to, so at this time, as I mentioned, I lost my job as an athlete. Mm-hmm. I had a friend that was doing some multi-level marketing. He's like, hey, listen, you're great with people. you could do well in this thing. Come, I go to this conference. This conference helps people to unlock their potential. So I was like, okay, cool. They're going to talk about marketing and different things. So I said, okay, cool. So I show up and on the first day, they're like, who do you need to forgive in order to take your game to the next level? So I was just like, I don't have anyone I need to forgive. The person beside me said, I haven't spoken to my brother in 5 years because of the thing he said at my wedding. I'm like, dang, that's your brother. For real, for 5 years? And then I was still in court. And I thought, well, I don't have anyone to forgive, but there's one place that I can't say what I would want to say out loud. So let me write to the officers. So I started saying, well, what would I say in court if I could speak?
Right.
And it was, listen, this may sound strange, but in this game of life, we're actually on the same team. And I want to let you know that you're forgiven 100% and loved 99%. I'm still working on that last 1% today. But so I started to write those things, and that's what I, they said, share with your partner, and I shared, and my partner, at the event, was crying. Was just like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. You need to share this. I'm like, listen, I'm sharing it with you because that's what they asked, right? And then the facilitator was like, is there anyone that wants to come up and share? And so I just sat and waited, and my partner was pointing like this, like pointing at me.
Yeah, this guy.
And I said, no, I don't want to do that. Like, it's not like, what's the purpose, right? And then she was like, please share, right? So when you're in a room and there's energy stirred, and I'm trying to just, be a student, like, kids sometimes look down when they don't want to get picked. I'm trying to just not move, and my partner is like waving like this guy. So he's like, does someone have something to share? And I was like, come on, man. So I went up there and I shared through the tears because it was really emotional for me. And then people were coming up to me saying that released things, they're going to connect with their family member they hadn't spoken to in 5 years. And so that was the genesis of understanding the power of forgiveness and how it can unlock and unleash people from things that they're holding on to.
It's you're right. That's a dangerous idea, and and in this sort of cultural moment that we're in, when there's so much sort of animosity and anger, and there's stuff sitting just below the surface. Everybody seems like they're ready to lash out. Yeah. This message of forgiveness. How does this work in the context that we're in today, where there's so much tension between groups and political tension and all of that, right? Yeah. How does this message of forgiveness sort of map onto that and to the moment we're in here?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we've seen in our interactions is that people will often tend to judge others from their lens and from my understanding of the situation, not necessarily thinking that there's another lens, and you don't know what the journey has been for the folks that are across the table or across the hall or right across the aisle, if you will, like from a political sense, but being willing to not take things personally because you don't know what their journey is, has been something that have allowed people to be more objective in times of highly emotionally engaging conversations, right? So people will get stirred, and then once the level of emotional engagement gets to a certain point, it's very difficult to be logical in conversation, right? They're just stirred, and now it's just they're angry, they're upset. So now encouraging and equipping people to step outside of self and outside of the emotion, to be like, let me feel. I'm not saying to suppress what I feel what I feel, but I'm not allowing the emotion to dictate my actions, my next steps, how I think and how I respond, per se, right? So we've seen that really help folks let go of things that they were holding on to. As they'll say, man, I can't believe you went through that and forgave, and I'm holding on to the fact that someone took my lunch out of the staff fridge. They ate my sandwich. You know what I'm saying? Like
petty things, small things.
Right, small things. Right. So we've seen it, really allow folks to. We've had folks say like, this story, this journey has saved my marriage. I was 21 years married, and I was about to call it, and I realized that I can look at things differently.
What is, just to dig in deeper into the topic of forgiveness, so what would you say to somebody who says forgiveness is kind of, it gives that offender, that person that did the wrong, it gives them an easy out, and it makes, you're kind of doing them a favor they don't deserve. What would you say to somebody who says that?
Well, we've had folks that have come at me with some fire with that sentiment, like, how dare you forgive them for what they did to you? And I said, well, let me just say what forgiveness is not. Right? Forgiveness is not saying that what happened is okay. Right. It's not. Forgiveness is not saying that I will turn the other physical or proverbial cheek. I won't. Forgiveness is not saying I need to renew a relationship with the persons that I've been harmed by, because I choose not to do that. Forgiveness for me is letting go of the emotion that is trapped in that moment that wouldn't allow me to be present with you here today, that wouldn't allow me to be present as a father, as someone in community that's serving, as leading the team at One Voice, One Team Youth Leadership Organization. Forgiveness allows me to really step in and be present with the gifts that are all around me every single day, and pour into them from a place of recognizing that we're journeying together, right? There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone.
Yes.
Right? But if you want to go far, go together. Right? So that means that there's things that you've learned along your journey that if we're journeying together, then I could learn from you, right? We could learn from each other, and we'll be better because of that. So everything that we can do that would allow for us to be connected on this journey together is something that we should at least consider, because we're, at the end of the day, we're only here for a moment in time, and what we do at that time can live beyond us in terms of impact. What you're doing, oh my gosh, changing things generationally for families. It comes from a place of love and intentionality, and I think forgiveness plays a huge role in that for me.
So, kind of that one voice, one team. I don't know. Am I reading into this the wrong way? Is that it's almost an invitational sort of title? It's like, could we all be one voice and could be one team? And you alluded to that in your story when you're thinking of those police officers that did you wrong, and you're like, we're actually we're humans together, and we're walking, on this earth together. Could we maybe come together? And it sounds like an invitation. Tell us about One Voice, One Team, kind of where it started, what the vision is, and what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It is absolutely an invitation to the thought that we can journey together, and our perspectives are blessed by creating space for our perspective to be shared, right? So once the space is safe, you will share. You could share freely. I could share freely, and it's not us speaking through our avatars, if you will, right? It's just like a real space where we could let our guard down and just be. So One Voice, One Team, we launched it because we saw young people falling through the cracks in Chicago, in the greater Toronto area, and really across the country. As we traveled, we're like, wait a minute, this is not just a Toronto problem, the Chicago problem, like a major metropolis problem. We got young people out in rural areas that are struggling to find identity, struggling to find value in themselves. So what if we could curate something that allows them to embrace the fact that they don't have to journey alone. We can journey together, and we are blessed by their presence. And even though they don't have all the things figured out, hardly any of us do, right?
Right.
Have all the things figured out. There's still value in their perspective and their contribution. So let's create the space for it, celebrate the heck out of it, and encourage them to use whatever gifts and talents they have to go out and be of service to other people, right? So we take young people out. We do assemblies and workshops for young people in middle school to high school. We then invite them to be a part of the movement a lot of the time, right? We invite them to put their hand up to serve. We take them out into community, and we do some of the things that I mentioned that I was doing back in the day. We feed homeless, we plant trees, we do reading buddies where, older students go in and read to first grade students or kindergarten students. We do community cleanups. We used to build houses with Habitat for Humanity pre-COVID. So we do things that once the young people participate and they see the impact of their contribution, they can't unsee it, right? And then amazing. It changes.
Amazing. I go right back to your story about your connection with pinball. Yeah. That was your sort of criteria for moving to the Hamilton Tiger Cats was, can I serve? What is it about service that's so central to your heart and so central? What is it?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I feel like that's why we're here, to be of service. Like, that's why we're on this planet. I've had friends that have worked in different spaces where people are meeting the end of life situations or scenarios. Yeah. And I always ask. I'm really curious. Like, what are they saying? Like at the end of this journey here on Earth, what are the lessons that they're saying, right? And it's never, I should have took that lateral move in my job. I should have served more. I should have spent more time with my family. I should have, sought to contribute more to others' lives, right? So I think there's lessons for us, for folks that have walked this earth and are at a point where they're about to exit. I think there's lessons in there for us. And there's also just the thought of like how Jesus led.
We've chatted about the topic of the meaning crisis. And I wonder if it maps onto the service. Just thinking about our community, I get called on to comment on violence or some of the opioid crisis that we're facing here. And I've been saying recently that we don't have an opioid crisis. We have a meaning crisis. And we don't have a crisis with violence. We have a meaning crisis. And I just think that at base, when you ask, like, so why do we have this problem with violence? And, well, because people are acting out violently. Well, why are people acting out violently? Well, because they don't know any other. Well, why do they not know any other way? And you start to get down to that third, fourth layer of why, and you come to this point of purpose and meaning. How are you seeing youth sort of find meaning through service and purpose through service?
Well, first of all, I would be remiss if I didn't address or speak to the fact that one of the huge ways that you bless so many people through the work that happens here is because you're willing to ask why. You're willing to look beyond the action, the behavior. Most folks don't. Like, they stop at the behavior. And let's address the behavior. Let's punish the behavior so that they change that. They don't ask the questions as to why, right? So it takes intention, it takes patience, it takes purpose to be willing to ask why, and be being willing to wrestle with that. So I celebrate that. That's like, it's a beautiful thing and it's a powerful thing that we would be. I think we would be much further ahead if more people, more organizations were willing to ask why and get to the root. And let's address the root. So going to what, your experiences have been around meaning, right? And value is incredibly powerful. Now, when you define meaning, I'm going to ask you to define meaning. Sure. Through your lens, because I know it could have different interpretations, right? Yeah. For others. So what I want you to define it for the audience so that we can.
Well, when I think about meaning, I think that the question that I see people asking is, what is the purpose of living? Why am I here? Like, here I am. I've been born into whatever circumstances, and I think people are asking the question, like, is this it? Right. And I think I'm hearing that. I hear that from some of our supporters, even when people are involved in giving back, they're kind of hungry for meaning. Like, I want to be able to say, if I've lived my life, that it has made a difference. And so that's kind of my rough definition of meaning.
Yeah, and we lean into that. We lean into that being purposeful, because purpose will have you, like, once you know, whether it's, you know, we're talking about construction and, you know, the boot camp construction program we're connected to, and we taught to them about how do you separate yourself in the marketplace, right? You move with purpose, you move with intention, because it, like, there's something it's not just a job to you. So we start, like, what's the root, like, what's your why, like, what do you want to do through this? What will this, you know, we have folks that I want to move my family out of the neighborhood that they're in. I want to, so the purpose, the meaning for them is deep. The meaning in terms of why they're doing the thing in the moment, the job, is deeper than just doing a job. It's not just punching a clock to them. They understand that doing this is going to free their family of certain things. So then they move with different, it's a different level of energy.
I often say why transforms what. If you know why you're doing something, then what you're doing is something bigger than just building a house. Correct. You know why you're doing it, so it becomes a means to some kind of an end.
Exactly. Right. Same. So, like, when we have young people that step into purpose, and sometimes that purpose is feeling connected to others, right? In a world where, you know, folks, our devices, people say we're more connected than ever. They were actually more disconnected than ever in terms of, you know, loneliness and isolation. So when people find purpose, their energy moves, like, it transforms how they show up in spaces, right? A lot of times when we talk to folks about, like, actioning things, you want to make a difference, come on, what's holding you back? Well, fear of judgment. If I go, like, people are going to judge me. True. What if it doesn't work out the way that I hope it should work out? True.
So fear of failure.
Fear of failure, fear of judgment freezes people sometimes. But when they realize that, it's bigger, that's all part of the process. People are going to judge you whether you sit down or whether you get up to do the thing anyways. So you might as well, if it's on your heart, you might as well do the thing, right? And the other reality is they're judging you from their lens and from their lived experience. And you stepping into it could free them from something that's holding them from doing what they've dreamt of doing also. We are not here to say you're going to do it so that they look at you differently or so that they get up. You're doing it because you're called to it and because you have the ability, the capacity to do it. And when you do that, it changes things, right? So when people move with meaning, it transforms the work and how the energy with which they show up to do the work. And those are things that, you know, we always say energy is a thing. People feel like when you're being really intentional, when your purpose is bigger than the moment, the moment might be transactional. Maybe like you're at Tim Hortons, or, you know, at a coffee shop and you're about to make a purchase and you ask, how you doing today? Right? And they'll be like, yeah, I'm fine, how are you? Type thing. No. Like, not the rote answer, like, how are you actually doing? And then you'll have folks sometimes take a moment and be like, okay, I see you're actually being real, right? Let me give you a real response. I'm going through it right now. I've worked a double, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So meaning, well, like, when we move because we understand how fleeting life can be. We move with passion and purpose because we understand that we've been gifted certain things. And it changes how people experience the interactions because we're moving with purpose.
I got to throw a football illustration in here. You're going to probably do it better than I could. But I think, you know, when I think about there's Roosevelt has a poem it's about the man in the arena. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a great little piece. Brene Brown uses it in her book on vulnerability, and it basically is there's the players on the field and there's the people in the stands, and the people in the stands have all kinds of views about how somebody plays that game, but you know, as a player, you're out there bloodied and dirty and doing it, And it sounds to me like you're asking people, you're inviting people to be the player.
Come on.
Am I right?
Yes.
It's working out good.
Yes.
All right, it was a good illustration.
Yeah, it's a
Pick
powerful
up on
one. It's a powerful one because it's easier to be in the stands. It's easier, like you're not risking, like you're when you're in the field of play, like like you're risking everything. When we're talking about like our approach to life and being of service is that lives are on the line with the work that we do, right? And if we miss an opportunity, that's a life. It's not just, oh, I forgot to send the email, or I didn't follow up, or like there are lives at stake. Like legit, we've been in places where folks are like, if you didn't come today at 3:15, I was gonna end my life, right? So because we've seen and experienced that, we can't unsee or unexperience it. So we move with purpose, and we invite folks out of the stands to be a player in the game of life, because where you move the needle is from being on the field, right? You could cheer and give energy from the sidelines or from the stands. There's a place and a space and a time for that. But if you want to actually contribute to the thought of how we win this game, get on the field.
Yeah. When my dad died when I was 21, you talked about kind of talking to people that are just pre-death and ask them like what they've learned. And I asked my dad, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently? He said two things. One, what you said, I'd spend more time with my family. And the second thing he said is I'd take more risks. I played it too safe, and that's always been in my mind. And it sounds like you're inviting young people to maybe not play it safe and to maybe take those risks. So I want to ask you, kind of give your pitch here. If there's somebody out there listening who is tentative, holding back, they have a dream they're carrying, they kind of have a hot coal in their hand, and they want to do something, and they just can't step into it. What would you say to that young person or that individual to encourage them to get to the game?
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to that young person and talk to myself at the same time. Right?
And I'll be listening as well.
Right. So if you have something that is in you, I've had, Les Brown, speaker, colleague of ours, mentor of ours, it tells a story about gifts that were brought to you. Like, if it's been put on your heart,
right,
with the lens that you have, nobody else has that on this planet, right? So it's been brought to you. And he talks about the thought that you hold back from actioning that gift or that thing that's been brought to you. And then being on your deathbed. And he talks about the ghosts of all the ideas, all the dreams, all the things that were put into you that you never actioned, standing around your deathbed saying, we came to you and only you could have given us life, and now we have to die with you, right? And so I think about that often in terms of the things that hold young people back from taking action. And we'd like to create safe spaces so that you could step into it. But whether or not you have somebody creating that safe space for you, if you have something that's on your heart, you have something that you feel like, I need to do this, there's no time like the present. I know sometimes folks are like, I need to wait till this happens and this perfect thing to be in place. There's no time like the present, right? So, another quote that says, when's the best time to plant a tree? Either 10 years ago or today. Plant it now, right? Do it now if it's on your heart to do it now, because guess what? Tomorrow's not guaranteed. This afternoon's not guaranteed. So if it's in you to do it, do it. And if you're looking for reasons to do or not do, just realize that this time may be all that we have, right? So don't let those dreams that have come to you, don't keep them to yourself, because they're not just for you when you step into them.
Yeah, they're for the world around you.
Yeah.
And boy, do we need that now.
We need it.
Let me ask you the miracle question. Okay. So you have this heart for youth. Yeah. You've given your life to it. You've made a difference in so many lives. If you woke up tomorrow and the youth that you know, with the burdens that they're carrying, were changed and were in their sweet spot, what would that look like? Man. What would it look like? Paint a picture for our audience about lives transformed and changed.
Yeah. So we have there's superstar that she put her hand up when she was in grade 10. She now is working as an executive at a tech company, and she is making things happen for others. I got a call to speak at this tech company, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. You know, it's a powerful brand, that type of thing. So who's the contact there? And they said the contact, and I was like, that name sounds familiar. And then when we got on a Zoom call, I was just like, this person looks familiar, but, you know, a lot of people could look familiar, right?
Sure.
So she said, I just wanted you to know that when I was in grade 10, I was actually in one of your programs, and it transformed how I saw myself and how I dream and the actions that I've taken on my dream. And she's now not only went on to find her voice and become valedictorian of her class, but is now leading things at this tech company. So that's what I think about. I think about young people being willing to step outside of their comfort zone, because we push folks as well. We encourage and we create safe spaces for folks to be vulnerable, but to challenge themselves, to step outside their comfort zone. And we encourage the heck out of them when they do it, right? We celebrate them, and things shift for them. So for just the thought, even as you were saying that, as you were painting the picture of young people stepping powerfully into what they've been gifted or blessed or purposed to do, like that, a world where they are leading and they are influencing others and encouraging this current generation and generations to come to do the same, to put their hand up, to be willing to be open, honest, vulnerable, in service to themselves and then to others, is a world that is a better place than the current state, and gives us a chance to win. Like, it gives us a chance to be able to honor each other's humanity, regardless of where we come from, regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of our political or religious affiliations, where we can honor the human beings that we get to share this journey of life with. So that thought is one that is almost euphoric. You know what I mean? Like,
I can feel it in your spirit, the way you talk about it.
Yeah.
It comes from a deep place. Yeah. And that's honestly a world I want to live in, a world where young people are finding their purpose and are giving back. And I mean, again, there's a line in a book about a speaker that I remember. A woman said about this speaker, he was an excellent orator, but he had not suffered enough. And so there's something about the transforming power of redeeming suffering. And as I hear your story, and I hear how you took that injustice and you made it into something beautiful. And then you didn't just hold that, but you invite other people to take the dark things and the difficult things in their life to transform them and use them for good. And you know, there's a lot of dark things. So we're not going to run out of raw material.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of dark things to work with.
That's the truth.
And so Orlando, I am so encouraged by what you do. I'm encouraged by the mission of One Voice, One Team, and the passion that you bring to this topic. And I want to thank you on behalf of maybe thousands of youth who haven't been able to come up to you to say thank you. Thank you for what you've done for these young people and for your life and the story that you're living.
Appreciate you, Ken. Thank you so much for having me, man. You are a blessing to many. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Dangerous Ideas for Social Change.